TractorZoom is fueling dealership growth through integrated solutions, actionable insights, and empowered business decisions.
Hi, I'm Associate Editor Ben Thorpe, and welcome to the first episode of our new Used Equipment University video series. This series from the editors of Farm Equipment, with the support of TractorZoom, will consist of one-on-one conversations with progressive ag equipment dealers regarding their used equipment best practices. Our first episode features Dave Gibson and Zach Reister at Kentucky-based Case IH dealership H&R AgriPower. The two of them will break down some of their best practices in proactively identifying and taking action on at-risk equipment. Hello, everybody. Ben Thorpe here, Associate Editor with Farm Equipment Magazine. Welcome to another episode in our sponsored video series with TractorZoom. I'm here with two fine gentlemen from H&R AgriPower. We're going to be talking about proactively identifying at-risk equipment. Can you guys just give us a quick introduction on who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Dave Gibson. I work in our wholesale division. I've been with H&R AgriPower since August of 2010. So I guess that's coming on 14 years. And then I'm in my 39th year in the farm equipment industry.
So I'm Zach Reister. I work also in the wholesale division alongside of sales management for the northern region. Been with AgriPower almost identical amount of time. I had a stint where I was away, but joined in 2010 as well. So I'm going on 14 years with AgriPower as well.
Okay, great. Well, we'll just jump right into it here. Again, we're talking about at-risk equipment and being proactive about identifying it. So why don't we just start by kind of understanding the implications that at-risk equipment can have to the bottom line of the dealership. So I guess in your guys' eyes, what are some of the things to really consider when you're looking at at-risk equipment? How can it impact the dealership?
I think a major factor today is the days and age, depending primarily whether something is on a floor plan or it's not. It's in paid inventory. It's still a concern because it's got your cash tied up. But if it's on floor plan today, with interest being as high as it is, if you're not turning that unit, you desperately need to be looking into why it is not turning.
Dave, how about you? Why is it important to look at?
Well, one of our key benchmarks that we measure here at H&R AgriPower is used inventory turnover. And, at minimum, we want to be at a 3.75 turn per year. So at-risk inventory certainly has the potential to, if you're not careful, negatively affect your inventory turn, which directly affects your financials.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's talk about ways to identify it. I guess I'll just ask you guys, if you're being proactive about identifying some of these machines, how are you going about it? Or what are some of the best ways that you found to look at these things?
Well, I'll jump in first. Zach and I spend a tremendous amount of time looking at appraisals for, I guess, close between 65 and 70 salesmen in 6 states. So being proactive when a rep sends you a trade evaluation, transmits it electronically, you can be proactive and say, okay, this has the potential to be a problem. So you want to, I like to pick up the phone and engage the salesman and perhaps his store manager or his regional manager and say, all right, this is risky. What is our plan? Do you have a plan in place, or do you need me to reach out to the wholesale network and see if we can find a cash bid for it, pre-trade bid? That's one place that you can start.
Sure. Zach, how about you? What are some ways you look at them?
Well, I think Dave nailed it. I mean, you have to be on your game and up on the edge of your seat each time that you receive any of these trade appraisals and know instantly. I think Dave mentioned the JCB backhoe scenario right out of the gate. That is not our market, nor do we want it to be our market. You know, our area of professionalism is in cash grain, and I think that's kind of, as we grow, we're growing into different segments of the market, no doubt. But our concentration has always been major ag. Wouldn't you agree, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
The JCB doesn't care.
Yeah, when you see an odd piece, a telehandler or a backhoe or something like that, or we've even seen some guys wanting to sell hopper bottoms, trucks, and trailers, which we do not touch through our dealership structure. But it's a give and take in that situation. A salesman may just be going through some necessary steps to get a piece into the system that he's trading for that he has already sold. We have no qualms with that. But if he does not know where to go with it, and it's not a piece that fits our market, that's an immediate, like Dave said, reaching right back out to the salesman who sent it in and double checking to make sure that they don't need our assistance, or if they do, then that lets us know to get to work on it.
Sure. How about?
And sometimes,
go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Sometimes you can have a conversation, and our salesmen are responsible for managing their own inventory. I mean, we help them, but at the end of the day, it's their baby, and sometimes you just have to have a frank conversation there and say, "Are you sure you want this?"
Well, and the other part of that, Dave, is how often do you see a piece that Dave and I referred to it as fence row piece that comes through on an appraisal? And used to, I wasn't comfortable when I first started into this role. I wasn't comfortable saying there's no value here. I do not recommend trading for it. Today, that's a different ballgame. If I don't see that we have an opening to benefit this company in a positive light, I'll always suggest not trading for it. So if you're looking at a piece that literally has a $200 to $500 value, but the market is so small for someone out there to purchase that unit, why even run it through the system? Just don't trade. But I'm plenty comfortable to say that now.
Yeah, that comes with experience.
Yeah.
Okay, great. How about how often you guys review for at-risk equipment, and what are some recommendations you have for people for how often to review these situations and when to take action, or how often to take action?
Well,
Go ahead, Dave.
I can tell you what we're supposed to be doing is every 90 days, we're supposed to look at our aged inventory. Well, not necessarily aged. We start looking at machines that are 150 days old. And we have an evaluation on our app that manages our inventory and trades. It's called a post-trade appraisal. So we will go in and isolate machines that are at least 150 days old and start looking at them pretty hard. Are they photographed? Are they advertised? Have they been reconditioned? How many times have they been quoted? Does the pricing match? Does it line up with what the competition is out there? And then some days, a 150-day-old machine may be perfectly fine. It may be a combine that came in post-harvest. So
Right.
It hasn't had its time yet. But we're supposed to be doing that. Now, I've had 2 surgeries in the last 6 months, so I have slipped. But after this month, I'm going to be back. And, I would imagine March, we will have another review. Then we sit down with corporate management and we go through, we block out the better part of the day and we go through each piece, and Zach and I will make recommendations as to what needs to happen. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's a price reduction. Sometimes it's we've had it too long.
Relocation.
Yeah, yeah. Or redo the photos, adjust the price.
Mhm.
That's we found that to be an effective tool for us.
Sure. Zach, anything to add, or anything you've personally found to be effective in reviewing and taking action on this stuff?
No, and I mean, just to piggyback off what Dave said, we have been doing this now. Dave, is this going into our 4th year in reviews?
So, yes.
So we'll be heading into our 4th year in doing this quarterly review. And the first time we ever did it, I'm going to say the first 12 months, we saw a pretty good increase in our turn, simply because we were paying attention to it, to the age and dates. And that was our first key indicator. I've almost flipped the script on the two main things that I look at when we go in. Number one, we sort by age of days, but I don't think that is primarily the number one thing that I look at. You have to sort by days to get your 150 plus day inventory on a list, period. But the very next thing I look at is the number of times that unit's been quoted. So if we've got a piece in here that's 200 days and it hasn't been quoted one single time, as Dave said, it may not be its time, but chances are if it's 200 days with 60 to 70 salespeople and that unit hasn't been quoted, there's an issue deeper somewhere. So I always look at that, and then you see something with 10 plus quotes and still not sold with age in days north of 150, then you're pretty well headed into how's it advertised. We know we're going to be priced out of the market, and you start looking into those things, and it starts to speak its own story to you.
Yeah, it's almost like being an investigator.
Yeah.
You say it's kind of a challenge. Okay, what's the story with this? And a lot of times, or not a lot of times, some of the time you can find a piece and you can say, I remember that. We talked about that when we were appraising it. And
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here it is. Now it's rearing its ugly head. So
Use a couple of used equipment detectives right here.
yeah.
That's funny, guys. So I guess something else I wanted to ask about or the next topic that I wanted to cover with you guys is understanding the pros and cons of some of the different levers available to move at-risk equipment. What are some of the things that you guys use?
The first thing that comes to my mind is Zach and I have developed quite an extensive wholesale network. Other dealers, jockeys, auction companies.
A lot of great folks.
Yeah. I mean, it's not uncommon to talk to people. Well, today already I've talked to a person down in Georgia that I deal with quite frequently. And, a lot of times they'll call us and ask us for assistance and then vice versa. So that's probably one of the most effective tools we have in that regard.
Well, and then spending enough time at some of these mind summits and managers meetings where you can invest in those people and gain their trust. And it's a big deal when they can send information back and forth and know that we're not going to either not return the favor or disclose where we're gathering our information, I guess. But it's a network, and I don't think it could work as well as it does, Dave, without the network of people that we work with day in, day.
That I guess 3 or 4 years ago, Casey Seymour opened up the Moving Iron Summit to dealers other than John Deere. And we've participated in that every year since and have made just some tremendous contacts and friends out of that. the people that we can trust and depend on.
And you mentioned the Mind Summit, Zach. So I'm glad that you guys are getting stuff out of our events too. And this reminds me too, Dave, when I came down in 2019, I think we said, and we did our interview together. I remember we talked about your network, and that's why I called that article "Building a Reputation That Sells Equipment." I'm remembering sitting in your office and you talking about that.
Well, I was a presenter at the was it the first or second Moving Iron Summit out in Nebraska? Probably in 18.
I think it was 18.
Yeah.
Okay. And here was the last thing I wanted to kind of cover was what are some of the best types of reports you two look at when you're trying to identify at-risk equipment?
As far as any specific report that can be generated, because there's so many, so many intricate details that you have to look at each individual piece. At least that's the way we do it. I've jotted down some notes just to go through just a quick synopsis of anything that's 150 days or old. Number one, days and age has to be considered. Number two, how many quotes? Of those quotes, how many are active? How many have been marked dead or lost? We always check on reconditioning allowed versus what's actually been spent. A lot of times, unforeseen circumstances make your cost rise way up, and in certain cases, your cost will exceed what your advertised price is if it's not caught in time. Now, that's a worst case scenario, of course. And then as these trade appraisals come into us, we reply back to that salesman and piggyback the location manager and regional manager with what we call a wholesale range. And we consider, in comparison to we compare where it's booked compared to the range that was given, and see how far outside of the lines that is, or if they're within what we're telling them. And then the simple buttons, checking to see that it's advertised. How is it being advertised? Is it on there with one picture? Is it a very bland description? Have we got all the goodies spelled out on what it really is? And has somebody gone through the motions and posted 10 pictures out there, but they're just mediocre at best, or are they really good advertising? I mean, there's a lot of things. I don't know that you can generate a report that will tell you one single report. We work off of several from the sales management side, which is inventory for advertising reports, a sales report. We work off all of those. But on the wholesale side, I think, Dave, you kind of keyed up on it there as an equipment investigator.
There's a problem there somewhere. You just need to find it. So, one thing that I will mention, we're in our second year using Tractor Zoom, and they will send you an email every day, or you can tailor it to however, but they will send you a listing of units that, based on, I suppose, their criteria, are priced outside the normal retail or auction range. And we haven't done a lot with that yet, but I think that's an area that we can grow in and at least make the salesman or the store manager or whoever that is responsible for the trade say, all right, you just need to understand you're not priced, or you're priced outside the range here, and we need to be careful. Again, it falls into being proactive.
Okay. All right. Well, those were all our formal topic interview. I guess I'll throw it out to you guys. Have we covered everything, anything people could learn from that you guys do, or is there something we haven't touched on or should expand upon before we wrap up here?
I can't think of anything else at this point.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for your time. Thank you to Tractor Zoom for working with us on this series. And this has been some great information. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.